So, guys, I promise you that I'm going to try and get Ryan to chat to me on the daily show and catch up with him, etc. Because he had a good start to the season for himself in the 4-day arena, and I thought this would be a perfect time. I think Heath also thought that this would be a perfect time to chat after the dust has settled a bit on the couple of games that started. I think this is a nice opportunity for us to also get to see how he is in his mind, what he's thinking going forward, how he's feeling after that two excellent knocks that he had in the recent 4-day competition. I like to understand the game a lot better. So this is what I learned from this particular interviews. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be bringing you a Ryan Rickelton exclusive interview, and that's what this episode is about. But before we get going, before we get started, please remember to subscribe to this channel. Please remember to click that notification bell for all future videos. Don't forget to smash the like button. Don't forget to share and comment and all of those things. If you want to help us with regards to studio equipment, with regards to promoting South African cricket, with regards to growing South African cricket and helping us as a company as well, then please get involved with the Patron account. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. We also have a monthly magazine that's 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. Link is on the screen as well as in the description. Go ahead and follow us there too. Our subscriber base is climbing, guys, so please get involved right away. And if you want to have regular updates, features, etc., and those type of news updates, then go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all your regular updates. So I don't want to keep you guys waiting too long. Let's get straight into today's video. Looking forward to chatting to Ryan about everything in his career so far again. Good evening and welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your daily show. I'm your host, Khalid, and this is my co-host today, Ryan Rickelton. Okay, yes, I'm going to be chatting to him, but he can be my co-host today. And welcome to the show, Ryan. How are you doing? How are you feeling? I mean, two excellent knocks in the 4-day competition to get your 4-day competition started. Talk us through it. How are you feeling?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Nice to be back on the show. Yeah, nice to tick those boxes off quite early. Obviously disappointed with the Titans result, but personally, yeah, nice to get some runs under my belt after a bit of a break, from the county season and the Test series in England. Having a quiet T20 tournament, so yeah, nice to just be back on the park and getting the ball rolling.
I want to talk to you a little bit about that. I never actually got an opportunity to get into your mindset about county cricket, what you learned there, etc., and also what you learned from that from the England series as well. Can you give me some insights into that? What sort of conversations you had with certain players and what you learned from different players and just being in the environment, etc.?
Yeah, obviously it's quite a big package to try to wrap up into a sentence or two here. Yeah, obviously county cricket was just a complete different experience. There's so many games on the bounce, and luckily I was in a Div 1 team, so the opportunity just to play against a swinging Duke ball that seams around was quite a nice challenge. It was perfect preparation, I think, for the series. I was fortunate enough to get in on the good time of some of those, so the wickets were really good. So it was a nice preparation going forward into the Test series. I felt I lost a bit of momentum. Following my last game, I think it was against Gloucester. I lost a bit of momentum, obviously not playing the first two tests, and there was quite a big break in the middle. So I think it was about three and a bit weeks where, I was just in the nets, and the nets can be a bit tedious sometimes. But with that being said, though, it was an amazing tour. The conversations that we have just from, just talking about the game, chatting to the England players were really something that I learned a lot from. We were fortunate enough after the Oval Test match to have a beer with the England boys in their change room, and the opportunity to chat to Stuart Broad and Stokes and all of those guys just about the game, and just a few technical things that I managed to pick up, especially from Joe Roots, and just the way that they train and how they perceive the game, which is quite important. But I think overall the experience of playing the county cricket and then being able to front up at an Oval Test match with 30,000 people there was something that any player will take great strides from.
I'm going to zone in a little bit in more detail on each. I'm going to start with the county scene first and foremost. When it comes to the level of cricket over there, the challenges that you face there compared to domestic cricket in South Africa, I would like to know. And also coaching, how does it differ?
Because it's so busy there. You know, when I got there, the first night I was there was a T20 game against, I think it was against Hampshire or something like that at the ground. 2 days later, we began a 4-day game. So the structure is very packed. So from an individual perspective, I kind of got there and thought, well, we're actually not really even going to train before the 4-day game. How do these guys get going? So I was fortunate enough. I batted before the T20 game just to try and get some groove going. But it was just yeah, it was just different because the structure is so busy. They kind of let players just tick on. Players there are obviously ways that you can be assisted in trying to tweak your game between jumping from T20 tonight and the 4-day game tomorrow. But it's just something that you have to kind of get going on and just wrap your head around. So that was quite a different experience. And then again, you play a couple of 4-day games and then you're off for a week or two because it's T20 cricket again or something like that. So that was just a bit of an eye opener. But the challenge of county cricket, I thought, again, I got in on a nice time of the year in July. So the wickets I thought were pretty good, and the opportunity to play was really nice. But it's as much of a matches, I think. I think obviously here you have different challenges with pace, bounce, spinning in Durban and PE, and you get your good wickets, across the country as well. There, I think obviously it's more consistent swing and more consistent sea movement. You might get obviously a few dead matches here and there, but generally as the summer goes along, all kind of parties get involved with it: spin, seam, and swing. So I think it kind of balances out, to be honest. I wouldn't say the level is more difficult. I wouldn't say it's easier. It's just a different challenge. Yeah, you got really good players coming in when they're available, and they have a full go with it. If the conditions are right for them, and you're batting on you lose a toss and you're batting first day, you could be all out for close to 100, just over 100. So it's just a different challenge. But I definitely wouldn't say that one league is better than the other or one league is worse than the other.
So that gives me to my next question, or leads me to my next question, because it's quite evident, well, to me at least, and to some of the people on the fan base, that because of our different conditions, we don't often face that swinging deliveries quite often here in South African conditions. Very often, maybe Durban sometimes, maybe PE sometimes, dependable on the weather, obviously, and the time of the year. But with regards to swinging conditions, what did you learn about that? Because it does seem that certain players that come through the domestic scene do struggle with the swinging delivery and knowing how to play it.
So before I went over, I actually took a trip down to Cape Town, and I worked with Neil McKenzie and Gary. I went to specifically go down to do a week with them, just to try obviously aid me on the Dukes ball, because I haven't played against it before. So I was also a little bit nervous on how am I going to handle it. And yeah, I think as players kind of handling it, it's obviously more conventional swing there. We do have conventional up here. It just doesn't last that long. And then obviously we try to push reverse swing here. That Duke ball is so hard. And once you get that first layer of luck, it's called, once you get that off, then it actually starts to swing quite a lot and consistently throughout the whole day before the new ball comes on again. So as a left-hander, it's probably one of the benefits. I emphasized on, if I'm going to stand on off stump, obviously on my pads in the way. So I really emphasize on trying to stay leg side of the ball for guys that were coming over the wicket, and obviously dominating that channel between mid-off and wide mid-wicket. So if they came in there, I was an opportunity to score, but I had to really be strong in that position. So that was my big emphasis. But in saying that, obviously, if they pushed it outside of my eye line, then it was a comfy leave. So I really honed in on trying to be leg side of the ball, big time. And then when they came around the wicket, I tried to get on the other side of the ball, if that makes sense. I tried to be on the off side of the ball. So I tried to make sure it was square with my eyes, and that I felt gave me the best opportunity to score both sides of the wicket. So yeah, that was kind of my big learning of it, and it's something that I've done here, but it was something that I really needed to emphasize going over, because obviously the ball gradually does a hell of a lot more. So that was my big emphasis, in just trying to make sure that you don't overstride. That was one of the things Neil said to me. He said, you don't commit too early, because if you commit too early and it swings, that's when it's going to hit your pad. So it was more about head position and hand position, and obviously just trying to stay a little bit leg side of the ball for me.
Okay, interesting. And coming to Cape Town and working with Neil McKenzie, was that your initiative, or did they kind of talk to you beforehand and say, you know what, you want to do some extra training?
That was, we were on the A tour to Zim, and
Yeah.
Neil and I are we work well together. We're pretty close. So I gave him a ring and said, listen, Mackie, I've got a gig at Northampton. Can I come down to Cape Town for a week? So I booked my flight and booked some accommodation, and Mackie was nice enough to help me for the week.
Has there been communication with regards to that from CSA and the players to use Neil McKenzie as the batting lead or so more consistently? Do they give you that advice to maybe talk to coaches and learn some certain other skills?
No, for what I did, that opportunity I don't think has ever really been afforded to many players. That again was for my own personal account, and that was me trying to take my responsibility of my game into my own hands. Obviously the coaches are there on tap, so not all of them obviously, but the guys under the CSA umbrella, I'm sure most of us will be able to get a hold of and talk to them and discuss stuff. But for Neil to take time out of his day, Monday to Saturday, and come work with me for an hour or two every day, and then obviously bring Gary Kirsten in as well, was something that I found was really beneficial for me.
Wow.
And something that I'm grateful that they were willing to help me with.
So like that's crazy for me to just think about that, because there's two legends of the game, I would say. Gary Kirsten as well. I mean, I'm a Bosch boy, he's an ex-Bosch boy as well, so obviously there's a little bit of connection there too. What does he do differently? What stood out to you about Gary Kirsten? What makes him good or great at what he does, in your opinion?
So it was different. I've never worked with Gary before. I've met him a handful of times. But yeah, Neil was actually the one which kind of pushed it. He said, listen, if you're going to come down here, you obviously, because we started talking about, the test series and facing Broad and the Duke and all that kind of stuff. And he said, listen, well, we could try getting a left-handed batter in. And he kind of railed off some names. Who would you like? Graham Smith or Gary Kirsten, or whatever, subject to availability. Obviously, I think Graham was away. So I said, Neil, whoever you can get, I'd be, really, really happy with. They're both serious names in the game. So yeah, Gary was an interesting one, because I think it's difficult when you're coming in and you have a week to kind of look at a player. He might know me, but doesn't really know how I go. So Neil and I have a really good relationship, and he understands how my batting works. So Gary he's quite obviously calm and keeps things really simplistic. So Neil would throw, and Gary would watch, and he'd just ask a few questions as to why I would do these things and what shots I was looking to play. And so it was more kind of simple stuff to him. And just, again, he really emphasized that if you want to play the swinging ball in England, it's just how to play it and where to play it, obviously being nice and tight to your body, and obviously having a good judgment. So like I said, it was tough for him to come in and reinvent the wheel. He's probably only watched me 4 days. And he watched those days, and he was pretty happy with what he saw. He said, looks good, looks nice and compact. Gave me his more mental kind of advice. He was talking along the lines of, there was not a bit of anxiety, but a bit of excitement. So just the opportunity to play against England is, around the corner as well. And you're just speaking about the level of, if you can get to where you are now, it's only a small ladder to climb to hopefully conquer the next level, he said. And he was just pushing me in the right direction of my more of a mental space, which was interesting, and obviously, fascinating to hear from him, who was such a, tough, nuggety, gritty, determined player, and he scored runs overseas everywhere as well.
Yeah. So a question that I'm going to move on to the Proteas now, because there was a question that I always ask players is like, do you get an opportunity to maybe speak to the opposition players and get some understanding from them? You already said that you did, but like, what was that interaction like? Like, how do you approach the opposition in that way? I know you were part of the Proteas team, of course, but you kind of new in the setup, of course. So for a guy like you, that it's maybe a newbie, to go up to like a Stuart Broad and stuff, like, what's your approach? Let's get your pickup lines.
It's no pickup lines. I think that's probably the best part of the game, to be honest. The best part of the series, where probably the most social and interactive, element of the game. And it's probably an element that's fallen out of cricket, which is quite sad. Because that really is after every test match, I think obviously what used to happen is that everyone would have drinks at the end of the day and chat, and that's probably where you learn the most. So unfortunately, we're only able to do that in the last test match, and it's not something everyone does anymore. So it was only a handful of us, probably about 6 or 7 of us, that would go in. Someone would lead it. In this case, it was Simon, because Simon knows a lot of the guys through the county circuit. So Simon would bust the door down. They had their families and their whole things, and their people close to them around. So it was kind of one of those where cricketers are cricketers. You all want to learn. The sheets are down. There's no real awkwardness about it. I went up to Stuart and said, "Hello, mate. Bob Bolt, easy, tough to face kind of thing. Listen, what did you think I could do here, and what are your thoughts around it and stuff like that?" And he gave me his personal opinion. And then once the kind of layer is broken, then it kind of eases off. KG was chatting to Jimmy and to Joe Root, and Dean was chatting to Dean's very close to Jack Leach, so he was chatting to Leachy. And I met Ollie Pope throughout the summer earlier, so I would go chat to all of the guys. But once it's kind of broken down, it's broken down, and it's very easy to get going. Everyone has a drink, and you just talk about the game, what you thought was good, what you learned, and that's probably the most learning that actually happens on the tour, I think. So I was fortunate enough to obviously do that, and then I saw them again later that night, and we could continue kind of those discussions, obviously a little less formal, but it's just that's probably the most learning I'll have on the tour.
So I saw Ollie Pope for the first time, obviously playing South Africa, and what I picked up about him, he's actually one of my favorite English players, not to be honest, after that tour, because the way he approached his innings, the confidence, the mentality, he seemed very strong mentally at such a young age, that's what stood out to me. Is that something that you pick up now that you got to know him? Does he think about the game differently to maybe others?
Yeah, he definitely does. Listen, I met him at a pub at Battersea. He's actually went on a date. He went on a date with with my best friend's new girlfriend before, so it was a bit like awkward in how it began. But once we peeled off that part and put it aside, we got to chatting, and he's an incredibly nice guy. He's an incredibly gifted player, and he's a serious guy. Obviously his mental game is also very strong. To come into the England setup and to score 100 here against us in a tough wicketed PE when it was a searing attack as well. Mentally, I think you got to be pretty switched on. But what I gathered from him is just a simplicity towards it. He takes confidence in his defense, and then his confidence the way he looks to play. And now more than ever, watching him even today, the way he just looks to play the game now, he's not really one that goes into a shell. And I think obviously it's nicely aided with this whole McCullum Stokes situation going on there. So it encourages players like him and Harry Brook and Zach Crawley to actually get out and play their natural game. And I think that's probably the one nice thing that I saw about him, is that he's very confident in his defense, but he's double confident in his attack and his approach to the game as well.
Interesting. So I'm gonna go into the next topic now. From my perspective and in my opinion, I haven't really been very happy with the way, how could I say, South Africa's transitioned over the couple of years. I felt like it's almost like we try something and then it switches, and then you kind of do something new, and then we go back to our old ways, maybe, or old methods, and then and it switches. Like, I thought that the perfect transition would have been when Boucher took over to take a full advantage of those players that were in that team, like the likes of Faf and AB and all those experience. I think for a guy like you, for example, to come in at that point would have been a perfect opportunity, because look around the dressing room, you can learn from anybody that you look at. Right now, the current setup, experience, yes, by cricket in domestic cricket, but not experience internationally. It's only really Dean really as a batter in that setup, and Temba maybe that we can look at and get advice from. And in that particular series, there wasn't much experience necessarily in the team in the last tours. So when you turn to who do you turn to for experience and for that talk? Because it looked like all of you guys, the top 6 at least, were struggling to find themselves and to find a rhythm, particularly in the second and the third game. So when everybody's struggling, who do you turn to, or who do you turn to ask for advice, etc.?
Yeah, you got it spot on there. Look, as in that tour there, as that top six throughout the whole tour, the only one that's actually really played and batted in Test cricket in England is Dean. And in saying that, opening is ridiculously tough in England. So yeah, as a group, we were collectively very inexperienced. Playing Test cricket in England, facing Jimmy and Stuart, and then obviously Ollie Robinson, who's pretty damn good as well. So yeah, collectively it was quite tough. But I try to take some confidence and experience some county cricket. Just try to figure out what I did well during the summer, which hopefully could aid me there. Obviously, Bouch was a massive technical point to lean on. Obviously, he's played Test cricket in England a lot of times. And we also had Neil McKenzie in the first Test. I thought Neil should have stayed on for the whole series, to be honest. But he left after the Lord's Test. Him and Mali Maketa were with us, and they both left after the Lord's Test, which I thought we should have kept them on. Neil obviously played huge amounts of county cricket over his career, and obviously lots of Test cricket in England as well. But those were the cards we were dealt with. And again, as a player, we're trying to find our own ways around it. There were times where they were just too good, and there were times where we were actually just found out technically and mentally, I think. And it's not easy. By no stretch of the imagination is it easy at all. But again, we try to look to each other for help. Even the inexperienced guys we're all having our say in what we think we can do to obviously negate the challenges that were coming our way. And again, we got it wrong, but that's probably just through lack of experience. You said it yourself. If there was a Faf or a De Villiers or a Hash or someone around who's actually been there and done really well at that level, especially in England, that's something massive to lean on. You take confidence in hearing what they have to say, and I think in that Lord's Test, we definitely took a lot of confidence out of Neil. And he was definitely a big factor towards the start there. Obviously, it tapered off down the hill, but again, like I said, we're having those conversations among each other of things we can do. And again, it's a tough one because you've trained your whole life, and you suddenly there and things aren't going according to plan. And it's very easy when someone says change your stance or change this, change that. It's very easy to do. In the moment, but it doesn't feel right. And I think a lot of players won't have regrets about it because they did what they believe was going to work for them. And it's only once you've gone through that challenge of figuring out that hey, actually this might not be the one which is working for me, even though you thought it was, then it's time to step back and review. And for me, that test with my trigger outside from around the wicket, I was one where also guys were saying, must stand still. But if I stood still, I felt like I was going to get out numerous ways. And I have no regrets about that trigger because it's something that's worked really well for me. And it's something that I trusted. And again, if I didn't play that last Test match, I'd probably still be doing it right now. And that's what's something I'd learn in the future when I got my next game or, when something went wrong. So again, you got to go through those strides as a player, but it's unfortunate the result. But the learning I think that's what makes a good player, is that they learn from what went wrong, and hopefully the next tour there'll be a few familiar faces on that tour again, and that will kind of really be our test. The guys that go back in a few years' time is what have we learned, and can we make a good result out of it.
Yeah, so I was extremely happy to see you make your debut. I was extremely happy to see you in that Proteas team. I'm sure the Cricket Fanatics fans as well agree with me that they wanted to see you in that squad. And then when Australia came around and the team sheet got released, you weren't there. And it was a shock that went through all of us because we were like, you were injured. I mean, I obviously contacted you to find out whether you are or not. And then we saw you on the team sheet for the Lions, and fair enough, 200s in 2 weeks. So I think a lot of our fans here, including myself, maybe are sitting here thinking, how is that possible? How can you be injured for Australia tour but still been able to play for the Lions? This didn't add up and make sense to me. Can you maybe explain or clear the air on what actually happened?
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my head around what happened, to be honest. Yeah, it's a couple of weeks ago, I got a call from Vic saying, you're down in the team sheet to go to Australia, but effectively there's a cross next to your name. What's going on? And I said, Vic, I have no idea what's going on. I'm fine. I'm fit to play. And he said, "What? Long story short, he needs to get a hold of the doctor to find out what's going on." So my ankle at the moment has probably been hurt for about the last 3 years. The surgeon reckons. It flared up just after that last test against England, and when I got home, I did an X-ray, and the X-ray needed me to do an MRI and an ultrasound and so on. So eventually, it's found out that I've torn a ligament in my left ankle and I have a bone spur, which does need an operation. But with obviously Australia coming up, the new SA20 coming up, and the full summer of cricket coming up, it was, it wasn't something that I was going to miss. So I chatted to the doctor and I said, listen, is there a way I can get through this? And he said, yeah, we can do, these plans. We could do platelet injections, cortisones, and we can just work on your range. And you'll be fine to go for at least another 6 to 12 months comfortably, he said. So I said, okay, brilliant. Thank you. So he signed off on that and I was all ready to go. Like I said, I didn't want to miss out on anything because there was a lot coming up. Effectively, what happened is that the lead doctor of South Africa got the report because I was moving a bit gingerly during the T20 comp, which was fair, I was, but there was a plan as how it was going to get better. So he obviously requested some information and then we sent him the report and he had a look at the report and said, the ankle is not fit to tour. Obviously, Australia is a tough place. We cannot be taking players in with injuries. And I said, Doc, I understand where that comes from, but it's signed off by the surgeon. I'm fine to play. I'm playing next week in the 4-day games. I'm going to play the whole summer. That was all agreed from by the surgeon. And so it was a breakdown of communication between the player, the doctors, and the selectors because the selectors weren't exactly sure what was going on. And obviously the doctor, the communication there, I don't think was as good as it should have been. And unfortunately, I was left in the middle of it. So yeah, it's just one of those things that I have to bear the brunt of, is that the CSA's apparent selection policy is that they won't take players on tour that aren't 100% fit. So like I said, it was a tough one to swallow because I said to them, I can run a full fitness test for you now and I'll pass comfortably. I'm playing all the games, all that kind of stuff, and I'll be fine to go. There was a suggestion from the team doctor that said, why don't we watch Ryan in the first 4-day game and see how he moves? Because there is a plan signed off by the surgeon. And but there was so he said, why don't we watch Ryan, see how he goes in the first 4-day game? If it looks good and all that kind of stuff, then, let's take him with. But apparently that selection policy stood firm. So that was what I understand the reason why I'm not on the plane right now.
Oh, Philip, that sucks, man. Because I mean, I was trying to wrap my head around it. I mean, to an extent, I can understand CSA's point of view from regards to not wanting to take a player that might break down injured. But the fact that you have cleared yourself by a surgeon that's outside of their control and what they have, plus, playing and then going to score 200s. I mean, it's clear and simple to me that you can, so it's a bit of a shock to me and it's a bit sad, but yeah, how do you move on from that?
Well, so that's what I said. I had a few phone calls with some people above me and I said, look, it's not going to look great, but I am going to play the full season. And a lot of people are saying, it's out of their control. It's the medical committee's decision. And yeah, like I said, it was a tough one to bear because there was a set plan and was signed off by, extremely reliable and extremely good surgeon based on my research on him. So yeah, it was really a confusing one to understand. And again, I saw it obviously got some traction in the media, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good noise for CSA, to be honest. Which, yeah, obviously I didn't help by scoring some runs. But again, yeah. I was obviously pretty determined to say, you know what, I'm fine to play, and I really stuck to my game. I was really focused on not giving it away and just, occupying the crease and batting well for the Lions. And again, that's going to be my whole motivation now going through for the rest of the summer. I've got the one-day comp starting tomorrow, and I really want to continue and just continue to stamp myself, in the game, and especially in white ball cricket. I'm probably more determined now more than ever, to be honest, just to make sure that I keep going and just make sure that I'm fit to show that I'm fit to play, because, like I said, I feel very good. I have no pain, and everything works really nicely. So yeah, so I'm in for a full summer, and once that's done, I'll get the operation.
Okay, cool. I'm happy that you got to go for that operation because it's good that you get it out of the way so that you can go back to play cricket again. But what I wanted to say is that the mentality to be able to do that, knowing that this has happened, I mean, that must have been a hard one to take, like you said already, and then to go and score 200s afterwards. Your mentality, wow! How did you manage to refocus and then to score 200s, one in two games, two in 2 games?
Yeah, it was. To be honest, that first week I probably was a bit down. I was actually very down that week going into the first 4-day game. I had my final set of injections, so mentally I was actually struggling a little bit with my ankle because I knew I wasn't getting my full range of my body, especially in the T20 competition. So mentally that was quite tough to deal with. But after obviously the news came out, yeah, I had a full week of recovery because the injections warranted that. And I had a nice week to think about it. And you say, you know what, I could either fold over and, be drawn into my own pity and quite sad about the whole thing, or, I can get out there and play and actually say, you know what, I'm still here. I'm here for 3-4 max. I want to play higher, and I'm not going to go away. That's kind of the attitude that I took on. There was obviously nice motivation against the Titans because you're playing against the guys that are going. So there was always enough determination there to say, you know what, I definitely want to get 100 against you guys. And yeah, I was just willing to say, I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to dig in, and I'm going to make you guys pay if you don't manage to get me out. So yeah, that was kind of it. I had my lull period where I was a bit sad. But yeah, once again, you gotta get on with it. It doesn't rest for anyone, and I'm hoping that there could be a nice silver lining here. Looking forward, I've lost on a lot of white ball cricket these last few years, obviously with tours and traveling and stuff like that. So opportunity now to play a full 50 over comp, and hopefully I can get some momentum there and carry it through into January as well. That's kind of the motivation.
Yeah, guys, that doesn't deliver. Smash the like button, please, guys, because that's excellent mentality. That really that really stands out to me, because mentality is everything for me in this game. And you showed a strong mentality over there. Let's get into some of the fan questions over here that we do have for you. We got Likle that wants to know: did you enjoy working with Mark Boucher in the test team, and what did you learn from him?
I thoroughly enjoyed working with Mark. Technically, he's a superb coach. Jesse knows how to really improve your game as a batter. As unfortunate, I didn't get to spend more time with him because I think we're slowly starting to take some strides into my batting and the mental game with it as well. Yeah, personally, we got on really, really well, and I think he enjoyed the way I played the game. So yeah, I think I just picked up some strong technical cues from him, and just different phases of the game, when to attack, when not to attack. So yeah, it's just more understanding of the game. He taught me a hell of a lot with wicket keeping, readjusted my whole technique, readjusted a lot in it, and it's now something that I take a lot of confidence with as well. He worked hard with me, and yeah, I gained a lot of technical and mental, strong points from him.
Mm-hmm. Lawrence wants to know, you would really want to know what your role was in the Proteas setup. Was he identified as a backup keeper, or do you cover for both batting and keeping? What was the role that was identified?
Yeah, better, and obviously every team needs a second keeper, or every squad. Yeah, so I was effectively playing behind Kyle, but with the fragilities of the batting order at the moment, there were opportunities for me to play as just a batter, which I was happy with as well. Love keeping, but I'll take any chance to get on the park. So yeah, at that point in time, I was a second keeper, but I was no doubt competing for a top 5, top 6 position.
Cool. Do you have a player development plan either with the Lions or CSA?
Yes, we do have one with the Lions. We do it every year. I did my last one now in July in England. CSA, I haven't done one with yet, but they have reached out to me, and we will be doing one in the next, I like to think, the next few weeks, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just to plan what's going on. It was something that probably should have been done a while ago, especially with regards to my ankle, because if they said I wasn't going to be eligible for Australia due to my foot, I would have had the operation earlier and then played now, and obviously hopefully got a full county season in. But now it looks like that's gone as well, so which is a bit of a pity. But yeah, I like to think we'll be doing a PDP shortly.
How do they give you guys PDPs? Is it like obviously it's a personal development plan, but how do they assess you, and what sort of things are in those player development plans?
I think with regards to CSA, it's obviously more about it will obviously be more about your future planning. Where do we see you in going forward? Yeah, so the Lions one is quite technical because obviously they spend especially with myself, I spent a lot more time there. So this is what I think you need to do against whatever swing bowling, spin bowlers, wicket keeping, batting. That's quite technical. I think the CSA one, it will also be like that, but I think with regards to me, it will just be elements, something like that, of what I can do to get better in order to get into the ODI team. To do better at test level, to obviously get into the formats and play. So I think it will just be more about career planning as well, and obviously where my fit is within the side.
Okay, that's been answered. Okay, let's move down. Because obviously there's going to be a lot of answers about the injuries, so that's coming through here. Questions about the injuries, sorry. So that's coming through here. Let me get this one from you. Loads of bowlers and batters play through injuries. Dale Steyn is a perfect example, says Lawrence. Ryan, do you agree with the policy, especially if you say you can pass a fitness test pretty comfortably?
I got to be careful with what I say here. Yeah, I think it's funny enough. I actually listened to a podcast with Ian Healy chatting to Shane Watson about 3 weeks ago, and he was saying that players have that decision taken away from them. If they are a little bit sore, if they are a little bit niggly, and he was saying the whole point of when you get into a national side, like what makes a career impressive as well is that if you're playing 50 plus games or 100 plus games, what makes a career impressive is that you've also, by doing that, you've stopped another crop of players from getting in as well. And he said that obviously bodes well to your fitness. And he said half the job is making sure that you are obviously performing, but you fit in strong enough to stay on the park to stop someone from taking your spot. So I found that quite ironic and quite interesting to hear. Literally a week before I heard what happened. But yeah, it's a different one because a lot of players, I don't think there's that element of trust between players and some doctors. And I think they kind of just try to rule out anything that could go wrong. But I think if that is the case, it should be consistent across all levels to all players as well, or it should be fair, or it should be kind of barred down for all players as well. Like I said, according to the report, I'm severely injured, but according to myself and my surgeon, is that I'm fine and fit to play. So obviously, I would vouch and say get rid of it, but I do understand the purpose of having the head doctors make decisions, but I just think there needs to be strong communication between both and a proper understanding. And that's probably where it fell short with me, is that no one actually phoned me, no one sat down with me to ask me how I was, how is my foot, what's the plan, all that kind of stuff. It all went way too late. It came the day before the announcer squad, where suddenly someone called me to say, listen, how's your leg? And that was far too late. And I think that's the problem. The communication and the trust between player and staff needs to be much greater if that's going to be the case going forward.
I've been calling for that actually. More communication That's the biggest problem I feel in South African cricket at the moment. Malibunga Maketa has been appointed as the interim coach. How can you describe him as a coach? Obviously, you spent some time with him in England, you said as well.
Yeah, I played under Mali in the SAA side as well. I get on really, really well with him tactically. I think he's pretty sharp with it. Yeah, he's a strong people's person. I must say he's got a really strong care factor, which is really nice. Once he builds a relationship with you, he's really on it and how you are and how to care for you. And as a player, I think especially in today's modern era, it's quite a big thing is the soft skills and the personal touch. So I think Mali was pretty brilliant from that regard. Like I said, tactically sharp and he's on it. But I think what I really enjoyed about him is he's quite relaxed and he trusts the players in what they're going to do. It should be a little bit different going into Australia. Obviously, seriously good side in foreign conditions for again 90% of the team.
Yeah.
So it's going to test us. And again, he'll probably. I take my hats off to him if he's not fully 100% knows how the wicket's going to play, all those kind of things. He's more than happy to ask guys that have been there before, and that takes a lot of character and a lot of understanding to say, you know what, I might not know the answer here, and what do you guys think? And ask. So I think Mali's brilliant. Yeah, I really enjoy playing under him, and I hope that he has a successful time as interim at the moment.
It's interesting because I've been also watching quite a few podcasts, and it's a lot about business and becoming business person, or obviously becoming successful as men, etc. It's obviously we have obviously a lot of opinions on our drive and what we want to do to become successful. But I mentioned I heard someone that was quite a big millionaire. Actually, he's quite young and a millionaire. Actually, 24, 25 years old and a multimillionaire. And he was talking to a lot of guys who are older, 35, 36, that are also, but they're multimillionaires. So he's a millionaire coming up young, and they're multimillionaires. He's professional in his field, and actually an expert in his field. So are they. But yet he said his approach is when he's in a room with people that are more experienced than him or that are richer than him and have done it, all he does is listen. He doesn't say anything. All he does is ask questions and listen. So that's incredible to say that even if you are successful, and even if you are, like, for example, Malibunga Maketa, the fact that skill to be able to still ask if you don't know it's a powerful thing to have.
It is, and it takes a lot of character to say, you know what, guys, I might not be exactly sure of what's going to happen here, but you guys know, and let's hear what you got to say. And I think that's why I'm saying I take my hats off to him. Again, he's got incredible personal skills, people skills, and that's a good place to start, I think. So yeah, I'm really rooting for him and hope it goes well.
Awesome. Okay, Aaron wants to know, when not keeping, what's your favorite fielding position?
Off the field. No, actually,
because score triple a century, then you can sit on the field, off the field for a while.
No, I actually really love fielding. I just haven't done it a hell of a lot in the last 2-3 years. Probably I enjoy anywhere. I love in the slips. I love being in the game. I think if you put me on the boundary, I slowly start to drift off. But white ball cricket, I like to get stuck in straight of the wicket, long on, long off. I really trust my hands, and then obviously in the longer format, I like to be in the slips. Like I said, if you wedge me on the boundary and not much action comes my way, I might just mope off a little bit. So I need to work on that.
Ryan, which T20 tournament would you want to play apart from SA20 and IPL?
From the one that really, really caught my eye was the Big Bash, but that wouldn't be my first one anymore. I'd probably look at like the PSL looks really, really good. In the 100. PSL, because those wickets are glass, actually. They don't look like glass, they are glass. They're really good to bat on. And it just looks like there's some seriously good players there. So if you're doing well there, it's a massive opportunity going forward. As well as the 100. Love England, love spending time in England. And again, good wickets, good, lots of good players, and great opportunity, just something different to really get stuck into.
Finally, who is your batting idol?
Ricky Ponting. Always loved him always loved from a young kid. Used to wake up at 3 a.m. to watch him smash everyone in the test matches in Australia. So I really like Ricky.
Oh, finally, is it true that New Zealand tried to poach you to play for them?
New Zealand didn't try to poach me. I was going to move over to New Zealand. I moved over to New Zealand when I was first out of school. Moved to Wellington, played the summer in Wellington, played club cricket there, played a couple of second team games there. Yeah, I was actually really strongly considering moving over to New Zealand. And yeah, I came back. I was probably too young to understand exactly why I was going. And New Zealand is very, very far away. So yeah, they didn't try to poach me. I was just looking at it.
Okay, cool. Thank God you chose South Africa. Okay, thanks a lot to everybody that's watching. Ryan, thanks for being so honest and open with us and coming to the show to share your story. Good luck for the One Day Cup games, etc. I hope you do excellently there as well. We're looking forward to it. Obviously, you do have aspirations to play in all formats for South Africa. You've told me this before and told us this before, so I'm not going to even ask you that question. So good luck for that. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. To all the fans that have tuned in, thanks a lot for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell for all future videos, please. And also smash the like button and comment and share this with everybody so that they also know the full story, because I like it. I don't want rumors to be flying around and then here you have the full story, exactly what happened, everything that happened. So yeah, let's put the truth out there and not cause extra problems for Ryan ultimately, because that can end up happening easily. Also, you know what to do. Subscribe and to the magazine. It's 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. Also become a patron if you want to help us. Thanks to our patrons that signed up, Gabriel, Shaylin, and Dylan Janssen recently. So please join the tribe that we are obviously building. Thanks a lot, Ryan. Good luck for the season, bro. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'll see you very, very soon. Take care, bro.
Perfect. Have a good afternoon. Cheers.
See you.